I've seen a lot. Amid the celebrity allure of entrepreneurship, many exceptional entrepreneurs remain shadowed. Here, I team up with these hidden talents to unveil their challenges and successes. Dive in with me to unearth entrepreneurial gems, learn from our experiences, and get educated.
Yeah, limiting beliefs and like raising the bar and like I have it in myself of the fear of leaving stuff on the table, leaving gas in the tank. But like as a leader, what do you have to say to, I guess, the business owner, but also how is that instilled within like the culture and the people?
So give me a specific. What would be a specific example so I can understand the context a little better?
Like just everything across the board, I guess, whether it's sales or whether it's recruiting, of having standards too low and like where to set the bar. Like you look around and people are everywhere, like in terms of standards or in terms of where that bar is set. Like how do you know it because you have experience, but that's a luxury and a lot of people don't. Of like what do you look to? What do you look at? Is there a specific metric, I guess, that they should have their eyes on?
Anything you monitor will get better. So the first thing I would say is that what are you monitoring? As a business owner, if you have something that is not meeting your standard, then you're probably not monitoring it. Or there's no accountability for it. In business and in life, you get what you tolerate. I mean, it's just that simple. And so the biggest problem many organizations have are the conversations that are not had. It's the minute that a behavior is displayed in your presence as an owner, it becomes the standard. And so if you see something that is not at your standard and you don't address it, you've just created the new standard. So I think that, and I mean, this is, as the business grows, you have to have management in place who are willing to hold that standard as well. So, I mean, it starts at the top down. If you don't have a standard and you don't have a system, so we have this thing. The only original content that I think I have that I ever really talk about, and it's probably not even original content. I probably found it in a book somewhere and then just copied it, but I was so young I don't remember. But we have these 4 circles, and we talk about them constantly in our operations meetings. And whenever there's a problem that one of our general managers comes up with, or our COO, or whoever it is, I run them through the model every time. I don't pull out the whiteboard and draw the circles, but I am in my head walking them through the model. So the first circle is, and these 3 are connected, is benchmark. What's the benchmark that you're trying to achieve? So if it's in the hiring situation, it's like benchmark is we hire in 1 week from receipt of resume to offer of employment, 1 week, 7 or 5 business days or 10 business, whatever it is. You have to have a benchmark. Then the second circle is what's the system or the process that is required in order to achieve the benchmark. The third circle is how does management monitor it? And then the fourth circle that kind of goes around all of those 3 circles is how do we communicate it? How do we communicate the results? So if for me, any problem, I mean, this has worked without exception in the smallest businesses we've had and in the biggest businesses that we've had. That 4-step process is like, okay, identify the benchmark. What is it that you're looking to achieve? So if it's in customer service, in a sales target, in a recruiting target, it's what's the benchmark you're looking at? Like if it's, so, in a sales process, it would be, lead to sale is, 25%. In order to get there, the lead, we would then break it down to, a lead to assessment, um, or lead to call to assessment, assessment to sale, let's say, right? 4-step process. Lead comes in, sales rep calls the lead, books an appointment, and then the sales conversion. So we would have a metric for all 4 of those steps. And management would monitor that metric every single day. And we would communicate it. So some people might get it daily. I would typically get it weekly. And and I see it all the time. And I look at those numbers constantly. It's about pretty much all I do. I look at numbers, have coaching conversations, and do a ton of think time and work on vision and strategy. That's pretty much what my entire day looks like. Um, but like I remember I was sitting in my, so when I was broke and I went back to sell cars, I sold cars for a guy named Harold Cunningham. He ended up becoming like one of the most influential mentors I've ever had. And I, it was, I don't know, whatever I was, whatever, it doesn't matter, 32 years old, I think. And I had this, pretty big organization, doing 20 million in revenue. I had, 18 management executive team, and I was struggling with something. So I go up and I see him, I'm spending time with him, and I'm in his office. And this is a long time ago, right? So this is when fax machines were a thing. And so this fax machine was just going off like constantly. It'd be like, boom. And if you probably haven't even seen a fax machine, but it just like prints out paper. And then all of a sudden it just drops into this basket, right? It cuts itself and it comes on a roll sheet. Anyways, and I'm sitting there and this thing's going, wah, bump, wah, bump. And I finally look at him, I'm going, what is that? And he goes, oh, that's all. He was in the car business. He goes, those are all the reports that have to come into me every single day. And I mean, this thing was going off constantly because he had a lot of car dealerships, and every department had to send in their results every day until we were talking at the end of the day and all these things were coming in. And I was like, do you look at them? Like they look like they're going in the trash bin. And he's like, yeah, they are. I only look at the ones where we're either coaching or training somebody up and I want to praise them and congratulate them for doing a great job, or I only look at the ones that are struggling and having trouble meeting their targets. But the fact that they have to send it in every single day is what's most important. Because if they have to send it in, then they're looking at it. And so that's that management monitoring piece.
So it's as much for them as it is for the management.
Yeah. Because if the people who are cranking the flywheel aren't looking at the numbers, what the hell? There's no point in me looking at the numbers. I'm not cranking the flywheel. I need to have the coach. I'm looking at the numbers because I want to praise somebody for doing an unbelievable job and reward them, or coach them to help them improve. Those are the only reasons why I'm looking at the numbers. And so that's a critical piece that gets missed inside those kind of the four circles.
And like there's so many of these processes and things that can be implemented and are needed within a business. But as like the business owner just starting out, your time can get eaten up so quickly. Like what is some advice you have on structuring your day and where to put the limited time that you get?
So one of the exercises that we have our people do, and I'm a scheduling Nazi. Like I think one of the number one performance processes that you can execute in a day is schedule your day before it begins. The first one, like that would be the first one for sure. When before you go to bed at night or in the morning when you wake up, you should be scheduling your day. And too many people just get up and go about their day, especially business owners too. It's like, oh, I'm going to go here. I'm going to go check on that. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And they just like, they're all over the place. But you have to be absolutely um, complete and total focus on where your time goes. Um, and I think it is probably the number one performance predictor. If you look at someone's schedule, other than Warren Buffett, because his schedule is like pretty much empty. He takes like 2 meetings a week or whatever. But he's Warren Buffett. But if you're operating a company, or you're a coach, or you're coaching your team, like you've got to schedule your day. That's probably the number one. Writing down your goals or your standards every day to remind yourself of what you stand for is to me critical. And I think the third performance, whatever you want to call it, predictor or whatever, is to have a team, or not a team, but a group that you're accountable to. You need an accountability group. Every owner of every business needs an accountability group. It's probably the number one, because they let shit slide and make excuses for it all the time. And the owners all the time. They think because they're the owner that they are excused from focusing their attention. Most people mistake movement for progress. They think they're busy, and because they're busy, they go, oh, I got this going on, I got that going on, and I'm here and I'm there, and oh shit, yeah, I'm really moving. But are you really making progress? Are you really moving your business forward? Are you really moving yourself forward? And then when you look at the end of the year, you go, fuck, what did we get done? And it's a critical mistake that owners, they absolve themselves of accountability. I have a board of directors. I have a mastermind group that's been with me 15 years that calls me up my shit all the time. I have a forum of 9 or 10 successful people, like lawyers, business owners, CEOs, the collection of group of people for accountability. And then I have my wife. But I also have this other thing called You Inc. And I have, it is a question at the end of every day. If the board of directors evaluated my performance today, would I get a raise or would I get fired? And it's that black and white. I'm either getting fired or I'm getting a raise today. That's how I look at my performance every single day. And so depending on what your outcome is, and I measure myself towards my outcome. Now, I'm not in the businesses operating them ever, but I do a lot of stuff. And there's some days where I go, damn, I would have got fired today. Like I did a shit job. Pissed around on this call, got distracted by this guy, went for lunch with this person. It's like, what did I really accomplish today?
So, and then what is like the next step after that?
Yeah. Well, so then, you know what? When I go back and I look at my calendar, I go, shit, I didn't plan my day today. I can see, or I didn't plan my week. So my week is planned in advance. So most time when people call me, they go, hey, you want to meet this week? It's like, sorry, it's full. It might not be full with appointments. Like I don't necessarily fill my calendar with appointments, but what I do is I block my week. So I might have, now I do it based on a whole different process. Like I have 8 identities. I got the chairman, I got the coach, I have the outrageous father, the love slave, the best me, the profit seeker. So like I have all these identities. So, but the 3 business ones are the profit seeker, the chairman, and the coach. And so when I'm looking at my week is planned out in advance. It's not as tight right now because it's summer and guess what? I'm not, as efficient as I should be right now. So I probably would, get fired. But that would be a typical week in advance. I take those things and I go, okay, where do I need to block time? So there's lots of tasks to do. There's lots of projects that are being worked on. There's lots of coaching conversations that need to be had. Well, what I will do is I'll block time out for those to be had. And or I'll set appointments with, like if it's not, reports to look at or whatever, and I need to have a conversation with a COO, then I'll schedule that with them. But the time is typically blocked so that when I look at my week, I might not know exactly what I'm doing in that exact moment, but I know where I'm going to be spending my time.
And then you put whatever appointments into whatever identity blocks.
That's right. Exactly.
And the importance of saying no. Can you touch on that?
Yeah, it's uber important. But outside of saying it's just uber important, I'd say the three most important commodities I have is time, energy, and focus. The least important of those three is time. Because, and most people, you go, time's the most important, commodity that we have. There's only so much of it. Yep, there is only so much of it. That's why it's the least. Because there's a minute is a minute, 5 minutes is 5 minutes, and an hour is an hour. But inside of 5 minutes, I can manage that 5 minutes if my focus is on target. I get more of that 5 minutes with greater focus if I had less focus. If my energy is in the right place and it's not being distracted by fighting with my wife or arguing with my kids or trying to pay bills and having the pressure of, because I let this shit slide over here, we're not making enough sales, or we're spending too much money, or, I got ourselves in trouble because I bought too much equipment and my debt payments are too high or whatever. And I've got this negative energy inside my business, then, that's impacting my ability to focus, and then therefore turns my 5 minutes into, 10. And so that's the way, I guard that with my life. Nobody gets time with me that I don't want to have the time. I'm very, very picky, and I judge it based on, priority, my priority. I judge it on their priority. What's in it with them? Their energy, like I'll give my time to somebody who needs it on a coach. I don't like coaching people, but I'll coach people who need it. It's not, I don't, most of the time I don't even charge for it. But I'll do that based on how they show up and what their energy is, and whether or not I think they're going to spend the time usefully after. If I spend an hour with somebody, like, that's valuable time for me. Excuse me. So when I don't hand it out easily, I don't hand out my time easily. And so, unfortunately I don't have time in the calendar to get this done. We'll have to look at either next month or truthfully, the better person you should talk to is, let me refer you over here. Or, somebody sends an email to me and they say, hey, like, I'm looking to get whatever for whatever. Oh, that's fantastic. We're here to help you out. I'm CCing so-and-so in the organization. And I will have eyeballs on this to make sure that you get service to the nth degree. Oh, thanks so much. Really appreciate it. But what a lot of people do is like, hey, yeah, okay, yeah, let me get that done for you, and da-da-da-da. And then all of a sudden they take somebody else's useless task and they put it on their task list. That doesn't make any sense to me. Delegate, push it off. Like, it's
so
okay.
Guard those three things: the time, energy, focus, or clarity, I guess, in other words.
Yeah, no, time, energy, focus is how I do it. Clarity is different. Clarity is
how do you differentiate?
Clarity is thinking. Clarity is questions.
Can we talk about that, like importance of think time?
Sure. Yeah. Talk about anything you want.
So I think it's so easy, like getting so caught up in, like, not the rat race, but like the shit going on day to day, and like putting out fires, and like being able to step back and like just think, or like understand where we're actually going as an organization. Like, why is that important for those starting out, and also businesses that are thriving, to set aside for owners to think and sit back?
Yes, I feel like you've like teed me up, because like think time is one thing like I'm super passionate about. So I did not ask you to ask that question, but I am super passionate about think time. I'm super passionate about first of all, I think the biggest component of think time is finding a quality question. And a quality question to me has two things. One, it has a presupposition, and there's no downside to it. So, for example, it's like, uh, if you have to be very, very careful of what the question presupposes. Why cannot we, for think time questions? Think time questions are easy. I have, on my phone, in my notes, and you can see yesterday I had accessed it, right? So, I have a list of questions from the most simple to, heavy thinking questions, but it's like, one of my favorite questions is, please help me understand. When I'm in a conversation and somebody says, hey, we didn't get this done, or this is not going to be possible. It's like, okay, great. Please help me understand where the roadblocks are. Please help me understand why you think that way. Please help me understand better your position on this. It's a fantastic question. This is like, these are more towards staff. Can you clarify that for me? When we get into bigger ones, it's like, here's an example of one. And I just have tons of these on my phone. When I think about a question, I just enter it into my notes section, but it says, what are the first and second order consequences of my best solution? And are these consequences acceptable? So, give me a problem that you have in your business right now.
Leads.
Okay. So it's like, you're going to create a new lead process, or you need to create more leads. It's like, you could fit this in easier. It's like, as we're thinking about creating a new lead process, what are the first and second order consequences of my best solution? And are these consequences acceptable to me? Or if you had a best solution and you were like, hey, because I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make is, especially in that clarity section, when they're asking themselves questions and they're embarking on creating an answer and creating a solution to solve a problem, what they often do is they think about one idea and go, this is a great idea. They're sitting around the table with guys that work, or, in the department or whatever, or their executive team. And they're like, well, we got this problem. We need more leads. Oh, okay, great. Well, what if we just did this? Like, we talked about this, a referral program. Oh, great. Let's start a referral program. We should start that. Okay, great. Done. And it's like, well, wait a second. There's been no thought to that. There's a million questions that you could think on when it comes to a referral program, like that question right there. What are the first and second order consequences of a referral program? And are these acceptable? Right. What critical drivers would be required to monitor our progress in a referral process, in a referral program? What is the decision that I know I must make in order to have what I want? If I put in if someone bought my company or a new board of directors took over, what would they want to see as a result of our referral program? What would be the metrics that they would want put in place? Right. What is continuing to tolerate this problem costing me? It's a great think tank problem. Like if the problem being referral sources. What's the continuing to tolerate the lack of leads costing me in my business today? I mean, and I don't leave this shit to happenstance. I write this stuff down because I'm committed to the process. And that's what it is. It's a process. And that's what a lot of business is. It's just identifying a series of processes. How do we create those processes or the systems? How do we monitor them? And then how do we communicate that to the team? And that's once we've done that, it's like, okay, this is working. This isn't working. We need to do some training. We need to tweak this. We need to change the system. Normally, once you get all that information, it's going back, and 90% of the problems are inside the system. And part of that system could be training. I don't know what that question was, but I think it was, how do you say no? And I don't know. Anyways, but
I think that was a few questions ago. No, think time. We're talking about think time, and that was like specifically like with people in the organization as the owner.
No, as the owner. So as the owner, yeah, I sit down. For me, it looks like I sit down. It's a little different now, but how I started it was I sat down, and I got this from my mentor Keith Cunningham, who got it from another guy, and he tells the story really really well. But how it looks is I create a question. So I select one of these questions, or I have a problem in my organization, like training, and we're not getting the training results, or we have high turnover. So it's like, great, we have high turnover in our organization. We definitely need more training. So I'll sit down and I'll create a question around training. And it might look like, if we had a level 10 training program, what would be the most important components of that program, and how would we monitor them? I just pulled that one out of my butt. But that's a pretty good think time question. I might think about it a little bit, but I also have to look at it and go, well, what's the presupposition of this? We can create a good training program. That's one presupposition. I can create 10 points and we can monitor it. Okay. The presuppositions are pretty good. Is there any downside to the question? Not really. There might be some downside as I get through it, but I want to be aware of it. So I'm going to settle on that question, and I'm going to sit. And for me, I take my iPad, or I take a piece of paper and a pen, and I sit and I write, and I just constantly think on that question for 20 minutes straight. Key piece to the whole process of think time is never, ever, ever lift your pen off the table. Try that one time. It is so freaking hard. But the minute you lift your pen up the table, you go, oh, well, I don't know. Geez, look what's outside there. Who's in the driveway? Right. And you get distracted. But
so it keeps it moving.
It keeps your thought process right there. And it's painful, especially at the beginning. It's like you cannot lift your pen off the paper. And don't judge what you're writing. Just write stuff. And eventually, like, that's the whole piece, is like, when you get when your pen is stopped, most of the time when we ask our question, we're always thinking about the right answer. We're not thinking about the options. One choice is no choice, two choices is dilemma, and three choices or more gives us options. And so most people stop at dilemma state. They create one or two options and they go, well, I either got to do this or I got to do that. Well, that's a horrible thing. Well, I should marry this girl or I should marry that girl. It's like, really? Well, neither one of them really fit, but I got to take one. It's insane. You're really reducing success to odds. And yeah, it's a really great point. Flip the coin. So what are the options? And then, okay, great. Now that I have the options, the next question is with the 5 options that I have in front of me, what are the upsides and the downsides to each of those options? And can I live with the downside? Right? That starts to help you delineate and narrow in. But what people think is, and what we were talking about earlier, is they sit around the table and they think, well, we need a referral program. Holy shit. Okay. We better think about this. Okay. Let's toss a couple ideas. Oh, this is a good idea. Let's start it. And then they go with their gut, which stands for gave up thinking. So it's critical that we kind of like really commit thinking time to solving our problems, so that we're solving the problem that is, not the problem that isn't. So often we get working on, the effect, not the cause. Right. And it's like, oh, I got a sales problem, or I have a lead problem. Okay. Tell me about your lead problem. Is it really your lead problem? And is really leads the problem? Well, and then you start asking questions. Go, well, leads are a symptom. The real problem is the marketing company that we got doing our SEO. And it's like, oh, leads are a symptom, right? It's like, well, it's the SEO. It's what do the salespeople do with the leads? Are they scrubbing the numbers? Are they playing hide the weenie? What's going on inside the organization to find out really what is the problem. And so you've got to really think through. Most of the time, we're out spending time solving the problem that isn't versus the problem that is. We go out and we start, we run outside and we start digging a hole, and then we flash a flashlight to see, where we're digging and what we've dug. Meaning, we go out, we make a decision, and then we do the work, and then we see if, did it work? Are we in the right? Did we dig in the right place? No. Instead of going out with a bunch of flashlights, flash the lights, and then decide where to dig. And that is a huge roadblock in businesses. I've done this so many times. Oh my
So
God.
like almost moving with emotional decisions and just like, oh, I feel like this, maybe let's dig here.
Yeah, absolutely. So many business decisions in business are made based on people's gut.
Gave up thinking. I like that.
Gave up thinking. Yeah.
So like shitty days. I'd like to talk on that briefly of like how can a bad day still be turned into like, no one's perfect, obviously. It turned into like somewhat of a productive day and still output, even though you feel like shit. And opposed to just writing it off and being like, you know what, today's a bad day.
Yeah. Well, first off, we're all going to have bad days.
So how do we make it a bad good day opposed to a bad day?
I think it goes to the area of your focus. I think for me specifically, I ask this question: how's this happening for me versus how's it happening to me? Where's the good in this? What can I learn from this situation that might help me in my future? Where's this happening elsewhere in my organization where I can solve this problem so it doesn't occur again, that it's not going to pop up constantly? One of the greatest skill sets of any person, leader, any manager, business person, is solving problems before they become real. And there's clues all over the place. And the clues are the taps of the shoulder. I think you should be happy for the bad days. Yeah, they suck in the moment, but take your moment, take your minute, 2 minutes, and then remember, A, you signed up for this shit, number one. And number two, typically the universe is showing you something. Your business is showing you something. Listen to it. If it was a bad day, it's trying to tell you, hey, there's something going on here in the business. And it's a tap on the shoulder to identify that, hey, this is a problem and it might need a solution or it might need some attention. And if you don't, it's going to turn into a crisis. And so I think people just mistake what makes a bad day? You woke up, right? You woke up, you're going to bed. Let's put this into perspective. We live in one of the greatest countries in the world, in a time that there has never been a better time on earth. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on, but there's never been a time that is where we've had more abundance in the history of the planet than today. And we're having a bad day. I think it has a lot to do with perspective. I think it has a lot to do with managing your expectations. Manage your expectations, change them from expectations to appreciation. Look around and appreciate the problem. There's a great question, right? When a problem comes up, and look, some people have struggles with this. Some people, bad days are harder on them than they are on other people. Great. That's okay. What's your strategy? What's your growth strategy? What's your success strategy? What's your strategy for progress? So if this is a struggle for you, when you have bad days and they affect you, it's like, great. I need a couple of questions so that when I'm having a bad day, I sit down and go, how's this happening for me? And take 2 minutes or take a minute and list 5 things. At first it's like, you're going to go, well, there's nothing, it's not happening for me. There's nothing good about this. It's like, okay, well, think about anything that's good and change your focus.
Their perspective, right?
The onus is on us to manage our own state. And there's 3 ways to manage state: your language, your physiology, and what you focus on. And, so those, if you want the formula, like, because state is like a bad day or a bad thing, anything that's happened that puts you in a negative emotion is just a meaning that you attach to something. It's not, what's that saying? The truth is not in the fact, it's in the perception of the fact. Suffering is not in the fact, it's in the perception of the fact. It's in the meaning that we attach, right? Like, so in your business, things are going to happen, right? An event occurs. And instantly when an event occurs, you attach a meaning to it. And that meaning creates an emotion, whether it's good or bad. And most of us focus on the bad. And if that's altering your state, then you need to just go to the 3 pieces. What are you focusing on? What's your language, or what are you saying about it in your head or to other people? And what's your physiology? And it's like, I pretty much have every single morning of every year, almost every single one, 99% of my days start out awesome, because I wake up, I have a ritual. I wake up, I go grab my morning supplements. We jump in the cold plunge and we go to the gym 6 days a week for sure. Maybe I take a day off. Most of the time I don't. And I might just go up and do cardio, or I might just go stretch or whatever. And it's like the point I'm making is the physiology.
Like the meaning attached to it?
The physiology that my physical body is. I wake up, you jump in a cold plunge, you're like, phew, you got time and have you ever been in a cold plunge?
Yeah. We'll do it after.
We'll do it after. I've already done mine, but I'll do another one. But I mean, it changes your physiology instantly, right? My workout changes my physiology. It gets me into a place of certainty, absolute certainty. So, what are you doing to manage those things? So I think, it's not about how do I, overcome or address a problem. Look, that's good communication, good coaching, and good training inside your organization. And monitoring it. And then the feedback loop, just keeping doing that. But how do I manage my state? How do I manage my perspective on what happens? Is like, I make sure that I manage the meaning. What does this mean? I ask that question 100 times a day. What does this really mean? Is this really that important? And then, just pick up the newspaper and find out about, who got killed that day, or, it's everywhere. And then you go, okay, maybe I should put this into perspective.
Maybe it's not so bad.
Maybe it's not so bad, and to me, that's how I manage it. And I also, I don't listen. I don't watch the news. I don't watch the TV, because it flogs your mind with negativity. And it is the onus is on us to stand guard to the gate of our mind. I only let in my mind what serves me. That's fucking it. Sorry. I am so guarded to that, because I know I am human. We are all human. We are all just one meaning away. I've had friends where their kids have committed suicide because their fucking boyfriend sends a text and calls them a bunch of names, and they commit suicide. I have 2 friends that happened to. It's like, no fucking way. Excuse my language. I am not going to let that penetrate my mind. No fucking way. And so I'm at the front guard of that constantly. So, I don't know, I don't know why I'm emotional about it, but I think it's honestly, I'm emotional about it because I think it's what impacts so many people is that they mistake the whole concept of problems. It's just the universe there to teach you, man.
Yeah.
That's it. Not you, but men and women listening. That's all it is. You just put the wrong perspective on it. And if you want to change it, the change is right at you can't change the event. So that is wasted effort, but you can change the meaning you attach to it. You can change the story that you're telling yourself, whether it's in your business or the people in your business or the fact that you don't have sales or that. And the minute you change that story, now you have an opportunity to succeed. Now you have a chance to be able to step up and really think through it because you're not in this pity party or this. And so often, like the business is so hard. And that's why I said earlier, it's like, do you have the will? Do you have the will to see this through? Because this is what it takes.
And like the pity party thing, I'm sure that's like being in that mindset would of any problems or whatever the hell comes up completely blocks you from obtaining the lesson or whatever it is that you're trying to get taught. That's happening to you for, like you mentioned, for the reason. It's not happening to you, it's happening for you.
Yeah, it keeps like if we're in low state, when you want and I think too, like, I mean, this is a really good, point is when you walk into your business, like again, I'll go back to the will, like you decided to do this and then you decided to hire people and bring you along on it. You have a responsibility to them. And you can either be an example or you can be a lesson. And so what do you choose? And you have it is bestowed upon you. What's that saying from Spider-Man? With great power comes great responsibility. It's like, it's like people are watching you and young people are watching you to be an example, to be a leader, to be something that they can look at and say, hey, I'd like to be like that someday. Or I really appreciate the words that they used or the support they gave or the coaching because it makes a difference. I get emails and texts. And look, I have made, I'm not saying I'm great because I have made probably more mistakes than I've done it right. But I've still received emails from people who have, said to me, thanks. And it's from, surprisingly enough, it's from the people you go, holy shit, I thought they hated my guts because I have a high standard. But I can tell you, you want to change the quality of your life, change the quality of your standards. And your life quality will instantly rise. And proximity is power. So look at who are the 5 people that you hang around most. Want to know what your life is like? Everybody's heard that saying, but when you look at your business too, it's like, look around. Who's on your team? That kind of stuff is super, super critical.
Right.
I mean, and I'm going to say it again because I think it's really important. The responsibility is bestowed on us as business owners to show up in a way that serves others. Serve your team, you serve your customers. The customer is not my customer. I don't know. I couldn't count on 10 hands. I couldn't name you the names of 10 of my customers.
Because it's
like the
it's
actual
your team's
names.
customer.
Because they're my team's. But I'm not saying I'm right. It's just my philosophy. There's a lot of other people who do it much differently. But I believe that my skill set is coaching, the teams or coaching the teams to coach the teams. And they serve the customers. I serve the people in our organizations. And at this point, it's the executive team and the higher level managers. But if you get an email from me, it'll say head gardener. It doesn't say COO or chairman or some goofy ass, description like that of my title. That's not who I am. My job is to develop and foster and cultivate people. That's what I do. Yeah, there's parts of the role where I'm managing the other shit that I mentioned for the CEO, the org chart and manage risk, and which is a big thing that we didn't talk about. But anyways, it's yeah, that's our job, to be able to step in there and lead by example and serve our people. But we lose that sometimes because we get so caught up in our own shit as business owners. It's the biggest roadblock.
Our own shit, right?
Yeah, the own shit that we carry around because we think whatever. Well, I give them the job, like I'm supporting them. Good for you. Or they're supporting you. What about that? Right? There's always an opposing force, yin and yang.
I remember a story you told me, and I'll share in the fall. I forget exactly, but it was this father, and I don't know, it was like some shooter at the convenience store, and then he like ended up in jail or whatever, and he had two sons, and one son ended up the exact same as him, and was asked why, and he said, "Of course I did, because it was my father." And then the other brother said he was very successful, and they spoke with him. They're like, "Why did you turn out this way?" It's like, "Of course I did, because I didn't want to be like my father."
No, they both said the answer was, how else could I turn out like this with a father like that? Their answer was exactly the same. One went to jail for life because he shot somebody in a convenience store. His dad didn't, but he did. And the other one, had a beautiful family life, job, like a good citizen. And they both answered the question the same exact way at separate times. Well, how else could I turn out like this with a father like that?
Because their perspective was different.
They just changed. It was the meaning they attached. Right. An event occurred and they attached the meaning to it. And the meaning provided, the push in one direction or the other. And it's critical. One of the things I would say too, when we were talking about earlier about, the responsibility on our staff and towards our staff and all that kind of stuff is like, I would just want to mention that the importance of ownership or high level leadership in a business to have a cadence of communication with all their stakeholders, whether it's customers, whether it's, staff, what levels of staff, suppliers, all that kind of stuff. Like cadence is, having a battle rhythm to, structure your activities and your processes is critical. And how I would define that battle rhythm or that cadence is, even just taking out like a even spreadsheet, but like in your calendar saying, hey, I've got, 4 modes of communication. I can email people, I can telephone people, I can do a virtual call, or I can see them face to face. And then kind of mapping out, what does my cadence need to look like? With my frontline staff, do I need to see them face to face every day or once a week? Do I need to see my leadership team every day, or could I virtually call them, twice a week and see them one time a week? And literally, when I go back to time blocking, you can time block that stuff and put it in your calendar, and you can do that 3 months out. And you can just go, hey, who are the stakeholders that I need to be communicating with, and how am I going to communicate them? And it's like, okay, I'm going to send, an email to this person, once a week or once a month or whatever. Great. Schedule it in. And you can make it a reoccurring thing. Same with the telephone calls, the virtual calls, and the face-to-face meetings. And that's a perfect example, just to go back to the scheduling thing, is like how you can schedule in, those times so that, like this is block time.
And how do you identify the amount of time needed?
I think you have to be really, look at who they are, what they do for the organization. It might change because they may be new to the organization, and you want the frequency to be greater. And then you can kind of pull it back after a month or 2 months or whatever. And, and that could be staggered over time. But, it just, I think it depends on the position and the weight of of what they require uh, in that frequency. And that's part of just, sometimes it's, hey, I'm going to start this process. A lot of people don't think about that kind of cadence and making it a battle rhythm. That's why you kind of use the phrase battle rhythm. Like, it's like, hey, it's because, business is a battle, right? It's like, or it's a game, which way do you look at it? But you have that cadence, that battle rhythm that allows you to just go, hey, I'm going to do this. Like, we're going to set this up. We're going to make it consistent. Pathway to success is doing small things consistently over time. Small things consistently done. Formula for success. For sure. What else do you want to talk about? We could talk a little bit about financial literacy. The financial literacy, the importance of like the 3 scoreboards. And I don't know, this is not a direct question to you, but I don't know how often do you, here's the question I would ask. How often do you look at your financial statements? And which financial statements do you look at? Most people look at their income statement. It's they look at the income statement and truthfully, I've said this before in the podcast, but it's like they look at the income statement, and if it's good, they have 1 drink, and if it's bad, they have 2 drinks. And the problem with the income statement is it's like it has, like, everybody thinks, well, they look at the income statement, it's like, this is how much money I made. That's not really true. The profit and loss statement, or whatever you want to call it, income statement, profit or loss, or statement of earnings, has nothing to do with cash. 0. And when you tell that to people, they're like, what are you talking about? But like, your profits are a theory and cash is a fact. And the income statement really only tracks settlement agreements and settlements. So I'm agreeing to buy this off of you at X amount of money, and I'm going to pay you X amount of money for that. And it really just lays out what the costs are towards your income, but it isn't a reflection of cash. So the importance of looking at all 3 statements, the balance sheet, the income statement, and the cash flow statement, is critical. And if you in your business are not getting those 3 statements every single month, you need to go back to your accountant or your bookkeeper, and you need to get them because they're critical, especially if you're in a business that has, like, on the balance sheet, you've got, the balance sheet is going to tell you about solvency, right? How much debt do you have? What do you own? What do you owe? It tells you how much cash you have in the bank. It's the first line on your balance sheet. So how much cash is tied up in your accounts receivables and your accounts payables and your inventory. So really looking at that balance sheet, if you have inventory and you have a cash shortage, that's something that you really want to see. It also is going to tell you all the equipment that you own. And so kind of critical to look at that. It's critical to look at the income statement, obviously, but it's probably, I don't want to say it's the least of the, because all your expenses are obviously on there. So, you need to be looking at that. But the cash flow statement is the most underestimated of the 3 statements. And almost nobody looks at it. Have you ever seen a cash flow statement?
Not at all. I don't even know it's supposed to be on a cash flow statement.
Right. So, but the crazy part is the cash flow statement tracks real money, like real money. That's what you got. And it tells you where you spend it. So like, you have operating cash flow, you have investing cash flow, and you have financing cash flow. And so those 3 items are in there for you to look at. And there's some real distinct, and I'm actually thinking about running I might do a online, not course, but session or whatever for the statements, because I think it's nobody ever talks about it. The accountants never produce a cash flow statement. Typically most people don't see their financial statements until the end of the year. If they're lucky, they see them at the end of the month, and they don't know who who to talk to or how to understand them, and they've never been on a course and so I was maybe thinking about doing something like that.
A live Q&A. I think that'd be sick.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what we were thinking. Live Q&A. We do a presentation, and then people can ask, and we can answer questions. And if I, have to bring on like a real professional, like an accountant or somebody like that, to help, you know, answer any questions that I can't answer, because there's probably many. But I mean, I think the key piece also is that, like, what most people miss is that, management in a business, management makes decisions, and decisions create activities, and activities create results. But the financial statements, are really the nuts and bolts of that at the very bottom, which is like, what decisions are we going to make based on the financial statements that we see? And we're going to execute some activities, and then the activities are going to produce another result next month or next week. And then we need to go back and make, different decisions that are going to create different activities based on the information that we receive. And so it's, it's important. And and the relationship between the three statements, like, you have assets in your business. I mean, I'll say this, like, this is what saved my ass when I almost went bankrupt 10 years ago. I had assets, and I was like, okay, like, obviously, like, we're losing money, we're bleeding money. And I literally took out my balance sheet, and I looked at all the assets that we had, and I was like, how do we drive more sales out of the assets that we had? And effectively, that one thing basically righted the ship. Not to get into the deep story of it, but, assets produce sales, and sales produces profits or earnings, and profits produce cash. And there's a very methodical step-by-step relationship between the three statements and those four
So
steps.
what's on the cash flow statement?
So, well, the cash flow statement is made up of those three things: operating cash flow. So what money or what cash, was generated or not generated in an operating cash flow situation. So you can have, it's very possible for you to have a profit at the end of the month, but you could have negative cash flow. And that reason could be because your accounts payables, your accounts receivables went up, and your accounts payables went down, meaning that you paid more money out to your suppliers. So your account went off and wrote a whole bunch of checks because he's going away next week on holiday. Or you are not receiving money from your clients as quickly as you should. So your accounts receivable days stretch from, 30 days to 50 days. And so now the supply of cash is slower coming into your business. And then, I mean, I was on a board of a company. Holy God. I think they had 10 million in revenue, and they had 10 million in profit a month, and they were losing $2 million a month in cash consistently. I was actually involved in a business that exactly that happened. So you can be making lots of profit, but you can be spending cash. And their problem was that their accounts receivables were continuing to go up, and they were never going to get collected. And he ended up having to bankrupt his business. But we had to help him unwind that whole process, and, sell off assets because they produce sales over here. So he recouped but it's critical to understand, those financial statements. And every good, smart businessman, and I could think of a few, and I just talked to one of them the other day at the golf course to see if he'd jump on the podcast. I mean, I know he's looking at his finance. The guy's a wizard, but that's why he's super successful. But I would also say, like, the other piece to that is there's another component to seeing the financial statements, and especially on the income statement. This is critical. On the income statement, you need to see that over time. So if you're I look at a 13-month rolling average P&L. So my statements all get put on a spreadsheet for me, and I see 13 months, because in this August, when our results come out, and I'll have the results by the 10th, between the 10th and the 15th of every month. Never, it's usually before the 15th, but I get them between the 10th and the 15th of every month. And I will be able to compare this August with last year's August, so that I can have a comparison. So I'm not only comparing previous months, I'm comparing to the real, like, year over year, what happened. But you should be able to see this in dollar amounts, right? So we had $1 million in sales, we had, $900,000 in expenses, and $100,000 in profit. But you should also be able to see it as a percentage of sales. So all your expenses is a percentage, because that will show you some trends. It'll show you some best in class. We're 30% labor or 32% labor, or and if you're in like a product business, if you're making, like, manufacturing, products, running shoes, whatever, widgets, then you want to see it as a ratio to units sold, right? So what's my labor cost to units sold? But measuring that stuff is, like, it's critical. Are our margins going up or down? Are our inventories up or down? What's happening with accounts receivable? What's happening with accounts payable? I mean, so many businesses get in trouble because they allow their inventory guy just load it up. Like, if you're in the car business and you're not managing your inventory, that could be a bullet to the brain.
And you say monthly. Like, what should be a weekly practice of numbers or metrics to
you might want to see, in your business, you're in the landscape business, so I would think that probably labor is one thing I'd want to see on a weekly basis. I might want to see it daily.
Yeah.
I'd probably see it daily. Or my managers would see it daily, and I might see it weekly. But that might be one. Depends on where you're. It's a really good question, and the bucket I would put this in is critical drivers. So there's KPIs, which, everybody talks about key performance indicators, right? What's your percentage of this? They have these KPIs, but a KPI is a past number. It already happened, right? And it's like, well, you see a number once a month or once a week. It's like, well, if you see a number once a week, your ratio from labor to sales, right, will tell you how efficient how efficient your labor is, and how your teams are running. But you want to turn that into a critical driver, so you're seeing it more frequently and more often. The critical driver might be, because you won't know what your revenue is, but you might know, hours to projected hours on a job cost. So that's a critical driver. I mean, essentially, it's you would look at it like, if you have a patient come in and he's got a heart problem, the KPI is the blood pressure, right? You're going to go in, you're going to get your blood pressure checked. Ooh, shit, Charlie, fucking blood pressure. That's the KPI. Okay, great. Well, what do I do about that? The critical driver is the diet, the sleep, the nutrition, the exercise, cardiovascular. It's the stuff you do every single day that impacts towards that KPI. So those are critical, and it's so often missed. It's one of the reasons why it's kind of the only topic I kind of wanted to discuss. And this was the big piece of it, was, understanding critical drivers. And I can't teach it here on the podcast, but I can, identify it. And for those of you who, like, really want to get serious about the numbers in your business or your productivity or your efficiency, critical drivers are going to get you there. I mean, if I watch just my critical drivers, I almost wouldn't need to see my financial statements. I do, but it's not true. But if I couldn't see them, at least I know these major components, the cause and effect, right? Critical drivers are the effect of what happens to achieve the KPI. So that would be, the big pieces is is making sure that people like kind of really understand critical drivers. Truthfully, I don't have a resource, but we're going to be launching a website very soon. I've been saying that for probably too long, but I'll put a resource on critical drivers up on the website for anybody who's interested. But so when it gets launched on this podcast, you'll be able to find something on critical drivers. The only other thing that I would say, especially for small business owners out there, that a mistake that we often make is we combine our operational expenses with our if you will, right? The stuff that we kind of like, the personal stuff that we kind of sneak in. Hopefully nobody from the candidate review agency is listening to this. But I think it's important to see every business owner should have two sets of financial statements. And the difference between them are all expenses in and another statement that pulls apart the business, the expenses that happen in a business that are not operational. So, and we call them above the line expenses and below the line expenses. And I'll give you an example, a donation. You donate to, the Cancer Society or whatever. That is not an operational expense. A one-time lawyer fee is not an operational expense. If you have a contest and the winner employee that wins the contest and goes off and you send them off on a cruise or something, that's not an operational expense. Those below the line expenses need to be separated so that you can track only the operational expenses. So you have sales, cost of goods sold, your gross profit, then your operational expenses, and then we call them other expenses, novel name. But I mean, very few business owners separate those. And so when you look and you go, you had a bad month, you're like, wow, what does this mean?
So you can't like pinpoint what the hell's actually
No. And then, or you had a good month and you're like, yay, I get to go spend some money. Like, it's like, well, so you really don't know, the game that you're playing. And I mean, at the end of the day, and a lot of people don't like this, but accounting is the language of business. And like we said about A performers, like you can't tell the winners from the losers if you're not following the scoreboard. And the scoreboard are your financial statements. And if for whatever reason, if you want to sock money away for your kids' education, or if you want to grow your business, or you want to buy a house, or you want whatever, if you want to use it in business or use it in personal, you got to be managing these financial statements and the cost over time. I think the other piece that I would add about financial statements or critical drivers or the analytics of the numbers is make sure that in every component of your business, you have a best-in-class number. Whether it's in your sales department, in your service department, in your delivery costs, or your cost of goods sold, like what is the benchmark that you're looking to achieve? And you always measure against it. And the benchmark is a best-in-class number. So if you, and so you can look at your or your 13 or 12 months, of a year. And at the 12 months of the year, when you're looking at your percentage, it's like, okay, what do we do this month that allowed us to have a cost of goods sold of 27% and all the other months were over 29. And it's like 2%. 2% on $1 million in sales is 20 grand. On $5 million in sales, it's 100 grand. And over 20 years of owning that business, it's $2 million. That's a lot of money. I mean, this is the stuff that is the deciding factor of whether you're eating steak or craft dinner. Or you have something to retire from. Because like when you leave your business, you hopefully and possibly get to sell it, but you don't have a pension. So that's your pension money. That's the money that you put aside. But we think, it's only 1%. It's only a 2%. 2% or 1% of a big number is a big number. But I mean, you have to be vigilant.
Right.
And again, like, and you're no good. Like, the what do they say? The worst way that, or the best way to not help the people who need it most is to become one of them. So, I mean, whatever you save, give the money to people who need it. Make it a philanthropic, put it in a philanthropic fund. Like, if you're not that worried about it, worry about it. You should worry about it because it can help you or it can help somebody else. Yeah, that's sorry. That's my conversation about account. Most people don't talk about it, and most small businesses don't really get a pulse on that. So
No,
I
that
wanted
was
to
that was very good to hear.
make sure that we addressed it, and if there's interest, we can always get something on the website, or maybe do a question and answer period on it.
Yeah, and I like the part to highlight the below the line expenses of like, I've never even heard that before, but it's so like, it just makes sense.
Yeah, and most people in business think they should bury it. Well, that's why you have to have 2 sets of books. Yeah, is it some work? 100% it's some work, but man, it'll more than pay for your bookkeeper to produce 2 sets of books. But I would be vigilant at that, because and most people will be shocked, like, holy shit, really? We spent that money on below the line expenses? And where did we spend it? And if you are okay with it, if you're okay with where you spent it, or if you can justify that, or if it leads to, some benefit to the company or benefit to you, then great. But I haven't met many people that haven't been able to cut a pretty good portion of their costs out of it. Listen, thank you for coming. I appreciate it. I would just say that, from, my perspective, like, hopefully this gives some insight into me. Hopefully it helped support some people. We're actually going to do this another time. I'm bringing in somebody else to interview me on the personal side, because I made a lot of mistakes in businesses. I've made 10 times more mistakes in my personal life. So there's been a lot of growth there. So we're going to have that conversation. So you can look forward to another one of these. And I would just say, guys out there, this is about mastery. There's actually a quote. I wasn't even thinking about, talking about this, to be honest with you. And I don't know if I can quickly find it. I probably can't. Oh, here it is. The master in the art of living makes little distinction between his work and his play, his labor or his leisure, his mind and his body, his information and his recreation, his love and his religion. He hardly knows which is which. He simply pursues his vision of excellence at whatever he does, leaving others to decide whether he's working or playing. To him, he's always doing both. And a guy named James Michener said that. It's a quote that it's on my mind constantly. This is not a game of win or lose. It's not a game of success or failure. It's a game of mastery. Business is to me, it's a sport. It's a game. And it's a gift that I get to play, and I love playing it. And I hope I play it to the day I die. So many people ask me, well, when are you going to retire? Well, why the hell would I retire? I love this shit. And to me, it's about mastery. If people can't decide, and even sometimes I can't figure out if I'm working or playing, but I think were you better today than you were yesterday? That's the question I ask myself all the time. How am I getting better? And how am I supporting people more? To your point about, the problems, it's like, what I learned from this experience. how to help me grow. That's the gift. The gift of growth and the gift of progress. It's not, it's not in the achievement of the goal, whatever your goal is. The goals come and go. The feeling of when you win something or achieve something, that goes away. It's not achieving the goal. It's who you become in the pursuit of that goal. That is what's mastery. So I appreciate you coming here, bro. Guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for taking the time. And you have a podcast.
Yes.
You have a company called Ville Landscaping. Where can people find you? You're in Oakville.
Yes, we're in Oakville, all over Instagram, TikTok, wherever. And then our podcast, the Hard Lessons Podcast, definitely worth a listen. And again, I appreciate you having me on. It was a good chat, bouncing things back and forth. And I've got my pile of notes as well. So
I'm gonna drop 1,000 listeners just because of this. Dude, I thank you so much. Keep doing it. Keep growing at it. Proud of you, man. I really am proud of you. And you're an inspiration to, we had a practitioner here today that was doing some work on my shoulder before the podcast. And so we were walking out and I explained, I was like, oh yeah, it's my second cousin. He owns this landscaping business, blah, blah, blah. Kind of told her your story. She's like, oh my God, that's so inspirational. Like, wow. And so, never stop believing that you're an inspiration to others, and lead by example and don't be a lesson. Thank you for being here. Thanks for doing this. Great job, by the way.
Thank you.
Phenomenal job. And we'll see you guys again next week. Thank you for being in